Technology Partnership. This talk today is everyone's speaking around innovation funding for the water and wastewater technology sector. So kicking things off will be Cormac Haley, Project Manager at Scottish Water Horizons, who will tell us about some of the new funding that Scottish Water Horizons have on offer and kind of Facilities Access Fund, followed by David Miller, who's a Technology Fellow with the Hydronation Chair Programme and based out of the University of Stirling. And I'll be the final talk speaking. There's some work around the Energy Technology Partnership and the Hydronation Energy Innovation Programme. Then we'll keep all the Q&A and general discussion toward the end, and then close up by 11. So just some kind of miscellaneous housekeeping. I guess please keep audio and video muted during the presentations. The webinar will be recorded and available for replay, put on some of the socials, etc. So if there's any issues with that, please just get in touch. Basically, and then, yeah, as mentioned, please keep the questions in the chat box. Post questions in the chat box during the presentation. We'll pick them up at the end. And alternatively, you can unmute yourself at the end of the presentations and ask questions away. And yeah, in the meantime, during the presentation, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what your organisation is, your role, etc. And feel free to include any social media handles, email addresses, things like that. Okay, but I'll pass over to Cormac just now to kick things off. Okay, so to you, Cormac.
Thanks, Liam. I'll just see if I can share my screen. Great. Okay. You can see everything now? Okay, fantastic. Great. Yeah, thanks very much, Liam. Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you all here. My name is Cormac. I'm a project manager in the development centres in Scottish Water Horizons. So this morning, I'm going to start with an introduction to who we are in Horizons, our development centres in water and wastewater treatment, and how we're enabling innovation. I will also discuss our innovation voucher scheme, which we've launched a couple of weeks ago as well. So I'll kind of give you a taste for what we do, who we are, and essentially what we're doing to support innovation in the water sector in Scotland. So the first question you might ask yourself is, what is Scottish Water Horizons and how does it differ from Scottish Water? So Horizons is a subsidiary of Scottish Water, established in 2008. We're a commercial arm, effectively, of Scottish Water. So we work on non-regulated activities. So we identify, we develop, and we deliver innovative, profitable and sustainable solutions using Scottish Water's existing asset base and skills base. So in practical terms, this means that we are exploiting the opportunities from Scottish Water's reservoirs, treatment works, water mains, sewage infrastructure, essentially harnessing the opportunities from the infrastructure to deliver new solutions. So you can see the range of activities we have on screen here. It ranges from generating green energy from wind, from hydro, from solar panels. We work on projects recovering heat from wastewater. We do telecommunications. We do battery storage. We do a very, very wide range of activities. In case you haven't seen this already, just kind of a visual representation of the activities we do with Scottish Water. Like I said, it's everything from renewable energy. We're looking at converting food waste as well, telecommunications, battery storage. We're also covering our development centres, and that's where I come in. So essentially, we're exploiting, or we're harnessing the existing infrastructure in Scottish Water. That's a wastewater treatment works and a disused water treatment plant to create 2 development centres. And in those development centres, we're offering a dedicated and safe space for innovators to come trial their technologies. So we're talking about academia, small, medium enterprises, having the facility to test their technologies at scale. So in a real world environment, if it's academia looking to apply their research, or if it's companies looking at the pre-commercialization stage, looking to bring their technologies to market and looking to validate the technologies, they can do it in our development centres. In addition, it offers the opportunity to collaborate with parties inside Scottish Water and externally. So inside Scottish Water, we work closely with research innovation, operations, process science, strategy. We engage and invite those teams to come to our development centres to see new technologies in action. Equally, we work with external partners like ETP, like Hydronation, and we contribute to the Scottish Water's Hydronation strategy as well. And David will cover that in more detail just after my presentation. So our wastewater development centre is located in Bowness, which is about 30 minutes from Edinburgh. As I said, we're utilising the existing infrastructure. So it is built on the grounds of the Bowness wastewater treatment works. From those treatment works, we're taking in 3 feeds into a test hall, which is just located behind the port cabin. You can see in the top picture, and I'll show you a visual representation of our test centre shortly. Those 3 feeds are the raw effluent, which is post-screening, post-grit removal, our post-primary treatment, and our final effluent, which is our treated product, and that's subject to secondary treatment as the final treatment stage. So essentially, we can connect technologies in our test center to these live feeds. So we're replicating essentially a live or a real feed to the plant. So innovators can trial the technologies in a real world scenario. In addition, the treated effluents, the discharge, or otherwise from the technologies are sent back to the headworks, to the inlet of the treatment works. So in effect, innovators can trial the technologies in the knowledge that the treated product won't compromise the integrity of the existing works. It won't be discharged into the environment. It won't be discharged to the public. They have free reign essentially to trial different scenarios under different conditions in the knowledge that it's a low risk and there won't be any danger whatsoever posed to existing operations on site. So this is our test hall here. I'll click this button here. Okay, it's not working now, but we have our test hall here. Essentially, you can see we have 3 bays set up. In the left-hand part of the screen, we have our 3 test feeds. Like I said, our raw, our post-primary, and our final effluent, which can be connected to a technology. And from there, we have drains, which are set up to take the treated products, go back to the head of the works. So it's a full circular system. It's like a closed system within the wider treatment work. So again, it's a low risk environment. Innovators also have access to power outlets. They have access to compressed air. Essentially, we try to ensure the success of the trial. So we'll do the best we can to provide whatever innovators needs to make their trial a success. In terms of more functionality on the test hall, we have on the right-hand side a pilot sequence batch reactor. This is a 2-cell unit reflecting a 4-cell full-scale unit, which we have in existing treatment work. Biological treatment, it works on biological treatment. So it degrades contaminants using, we call it bugs, but we'll say the range of microbes, which essentially, degrades these compounds. So if you're looking to trial new chemicals, for example, you can do so in the knowledge that it won't impact the existing bugs in the treatment works. Equally, if you're looking to test the functionality of instrumentation, so monitoring process parameters like pH, like oxygen, like temperature, you can do on this unit as well. We have a dedicated inlet testing area as well. So as I mentioned, our raw feed into test center is post-screening and post-grit removal. This part of our treatment works, which is external to our test center, is a grit removal and screening. So one has capability to set up a unit here, and we have existing pipe work here. We also have power outlets. We have quite a large area where someone can set up their technology. So just to give 2 examples of trials at Bowness in the past couple of years, we've had Penisan, they're a UK-based company. They use shellfish waste and chitosan in shellfish waste to act as like a natural flocculant to precipitate solids from wastewater. And you will see here in the IBC, these are solids which are floating up from the bottom. They're being flocculated together and which are coming off. So essentially, they're looking at alternative methods to trial coagulants and flocculants, again, saving on chemical usage, saving on sustainability of supply chains and chemical input into wastewater. On the right, we have Mecana. This is initiative brought forward by Research and Innovation in Scotch Water. They're looking at stormwater treatment in scenarios where decentralized locations, for example, the Highlands and Islands, where you've a large amount of water falling in a short space of time. You don't have the existing infrastructure to deal with that, and you're looking at the methods to treat that water quickly to make sure it isn't discharged into the environment. Our water development centre is located in Gortleck, which is about 30-minute drive from Inverness in the Highlands. It's a disused membrane water treatment plant. So just like Bowness, it's again operating in that low-risk, safe environment. Any of the discharged treated effluent or otherwise from units which are trialled in the test hall is sent into a vessel and then tankered off-site. So one can trial in the knowledge that any of the treated product won't be sent to the general public. Another benefit of our test centre in Gortleck is that the source water into treatment works is highly varied. It comes from a peaty upland, so it can be quite acidic. There can be variations in pH and biology. Again, reflecting a real world circumstance where if you were to trial at a full-scale water treatment works, you're going to have to deal with a range of scenarios depending on the nature of the influent. Here's a brief kind of a visual of our test hall. We have two membrane rigs set up. We have a tubular and a spiral membrane rig set up. Again, we have a feed into the test hall as well through our membrane rigs. And again, all that treated effluent is all sent to a vessel which is taken off site. Two examples of trials we've had in Gortleck in the past number of years. We worked with the WRC, the Water Research Centre, which are UK based. They worked on point of use rural water supplies. So again, to go back to that centralised team I discussed in McCanna, we're talking about very dispersed populations across Scotland and the Islands and the Highlands, where we're looking for decentralised infrastructure. When nature of the influences could be very peaty, very unpredictable. This was a trial which was worked on between Scotch Water and Scotch Government. So we do work with these larger bodies, essentially to kind of bring around a big initiative change. Water Source International is a private company. They trialed a system for filtrating and disinfecting water using ultraviolet radiation. Again, it's a small decentralized system which a cheaper cost than a centralized water treatment works for these dispersed populations, not only Scotland but across the world. And they definitely brought out about a lot of valued learning lessons from that, which they applied to projects, particularly in the developing world as well. So our key benefits of our test centres in Gortleck and Bowness. So they're low risk, as I've expanded on. Again, there's the ability to test at scale with the knowledge that you're not compromising any existing infrastructure, the environment, and obviously Scottish Water's customers, the general public, which is very important. To build on that, we're covered by insurance, public products up to £10 million, and indemnity insurance over up to £1 million as well. We're licensed. Innovators have access to the Scotch Water laboratory facilities, which are UCAS accredited, so to the highest standard. Bowness has a waste management license. So when I referred to Penison, who were using the shellfish waste, they were actually treating industrial wastewater from a salmon farm. They were able to bring that wastewater on site and be able to use their product and send that back into headworks of the wastewater treatment works. And for Gortleck, we have an abstraction license as well. So again, there's ability to take as much water as required to test a range of different scenarios, be it in low flow, high flow scenarios. We offer full support, and this is quite important. We do make a point of actively engaging with people who would potentially like to trial at our test centres right through to trial completion. So we will have an initial call with someone just to kind of scope out what we can do, what someone is looking to potentially trial. We provide full operational support throughout the course of the trial at our test centres, and innovators also have access to health and safety and contract support through Horizons as well. Comms is quite important as well. So as I mentioned, we invite teams from Scottish Water to come to view technologies in operation or development centres. We're always on the lookout in Scottish Water to integrate some of these new ideas back into the business, into our operations. We're trying to meet goals in terms of net zero, circular economy. So anything we can see, we can cross-collaborate is very important. And certainly there's a very mutual relationship between those who trial test centres and Scottish Water Horizons. We want to ensure that they have a successful outcome and they can progress. So we're happy to promote those technologies thereafter. So I'll just bring you on to our last slide, which is the innovation voucher scheme. And I believe a link will be added to chat so you can see this in more detail. Essentially, this initiative to stimulate more innovation for Scottish Water and also the Scotland in general. For a limited time, we're offering a 50% contribution to trial our facilities in both Gortleck and Bowness, 50% off the bay hire, off power usage and off the operational support as well. We're mainly gearing towards academia and small and medium enterprises, essentially bodies who don't have access to trial funding already. We're trying to essentially, I suppose, elevate those who have a great idea but might not have the resources to be able to actually trial that in full. Decisions on successful applications were made then on a case-by-case basis. We'll review proposals then with Scottish Water, with technical experts to see who we can bring to trial at our development centres. So that's the end of my presentation. If you do want to get in touch, please feel free to send an email. My details are on the screen. I've also left a link to our website, Scottish Water Horizons, and our socials are there as well. If you do want to get in touch, please, like I said, send me an email. Please do access the innovation voucher scheme link, which should be in the chat. Otherwise, I will pass on to David. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Cormac. Really great to see those facilities, and having visited them a number of times, I know that they're well received by the companies that use them. So let me just get my screen up. Okay, hopefully everybody can see those. So good morning, my name is David Miller. I'm the Technology Innovation Lead at the Hydronation Chair Programme. So we are a fully funded programme by Scottish Water. We're based out of the University of Stirling, but work collaboratively across the ecosystem. And we're really here to provide a pipeline of innovation and new technology in support of Scottish Water's net zero ambitions. So obviously they're trying to get beyond net zero by 2040, and there are of course a number of challenges associated with those. But we work very collaboratively across the UK and internationally, forming partnerships, developing research and supporting businesses to get their solutions to scale quickly, and really trying to deliver those opportunities for change and clean growth across Scotland. In terms of our priority areas, so obviously our core focus is supporting Scottish Water's net zero strategy, but we have a number of priorities that we have developed in line with Scottish Water to focus our attention where they believe they need that pipeline of innovation to be coming through. And that's covering a wide variety of areas, everything from reducing and mitigating process emissions, about understanding advanced systems. So that could be anything from advanced process control using artificial intelligence, what's happening with the biology and the chemistry, and putting forward solutions to address those. Looking at climate adaptation and interventions, and what does that look like as we see climate changing and the impact on the water systems. How do we increase resource recovery and utilization? So looking at wastewater treatment centres, and could they become resource recovery factories? And can we recover resources that can then become feedstocks for other products that could then go to market? So some really exciting things happening in that space. Developing future skills and capacity, really important as we transition, and the skills that we're going to need to support that. And finally, looking at reducing infrastructure carbon. So this is looking at the use of concrete and steel in the building of Scottish Water facilities, and what can we use as alternatives. And we've got a number of projects ongoing in that space. So we're very focused on Scottish Water and their key priorities, and that's a snapshot of what we're working on at the moment. In terms of our team, as you can see here, we are very collaborative. We're not just University of Stirling based, and we are also working with a number of different organisations across the ecosystem. And we are led by Scotland's Hydronation Chair, which is Professor Andrew Tyler, a world-renowned expert in the water space, and our Programme Manager, Dr. Fiona Miller. Our focal point in Scottish Water is George Ponton. He's Head of Research and Innovation in Scottish Water. And then we've got two pillars of delivery. One is research, which is across the middle there, and then innovation. So we're really trying to work across the full continuum of innovation and technology development. So that's working in really early stage research and development, looking at how we can commercialize and deploy that, and then working with commercial entities such as startups and scale-ups, and how we can accelerate the delivery of those products to market as quickly as possible. So in the research space, we've got a number of focused colleagues here. Professor Gabby Madero at Heriot-Watt is an expert in civil engineering, and she's focused in the infrastructure emissions space, particularly at alternative construction materials. Dr. Amy Pickard, who's at the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, and she's very much focused looking at nature-based solutions and enhancing the natural environment and its role in the future of water management. And Dr. Anya Escudero, who's at GCU, and she's very much focused in the circular economy space, particularly when we're looking at things resource recovery and what we can do in that space. But unique to this program, we also have an innovation delivery arm. And you see we've got myself and two other colleagues here. So Derek Irvin is focused on place-based innovation and looking at everything from blue-green infrastructure and communities and behavioural change and community science. Liam, who you've heard from already, working in the ETP space, and myself leading on the technology pillar as well. So a very collaborative team working across a wide variety of different organisations. In terms of what we've done already, so we have funded a number of very early stage research projects, and we've developed these through our Crucible process, focused on key priority areas. We've 19 projects that we have funded already, just shy of £250,000 have been distributed across those. Very active events, as you can see, over 150 attendees at these. And this is really about bringing academia and research institutions together to look at key challenges areas and come up with new ideas and opportunities that could address those. We seed fund those to do proof of concept, and then if we have the results that we want from the back of them and Scottish Water feel that they're a priority for them, then we look at what are those pathways to delivery. So one of the ones that I'm working on for the moment, bioelectrofiltration with James Hutton, we're just unlocking another funding pot for them and looking at development of a field deployable prototype, which we'll then look to commercialize and accelerate to market. So this isn't just about doing research for research's sake, it's very impact driven, and what can we do to accelerate these forward. So very active in the early stage research space at the moment. But part of the challenge we face is when we have research and it gives us the results that we want, how do we then get that commercialized and scaled up? And if we look at technology as an example, the space that I work in, traditionally deep technology, so products that have a background in engineering or science, can take up to 10 to 15 years to commercialize and can take considerably longer than to scale up as well. And if we're looking to go beyond net zero by 2040, we're going to struggle with most of the solutions that we require for Scottish Water's challenges are going to be deep technology in terms of their basis. So we need to find a way of reducing these timelines, both in terms of the commercialization process, but also how we scale those up. And part of the challenge is making sure that we understand the value proposition. So that is, what is the problem, and making sure that we have the solution to address that, but also ensuring that we can get all of that knowledge and expertise from the customer into that product development and business development phase as early as possible. And that's what we're trying to do with our technology program. So we're already supporting a number of startups in this space. So looking at what the funding opportunities for them are, whether that's through the Hydronation Chair Programme, Scottish Water, or potentially others, working with Scottish Water Horizons to provide field trial support so they can get access to both the operation expertise, but get the technology in place and get it tested to prove that value proposition. And providing that long-term support. So not just, 5-10 weeks of support. We work with them hand in hand as we take them through this process of product market fit and then development of the business to get it ready to deploy. We have access to a wide variety of facilities, both looking at co-working space, laboratories, particularly specialist laboratories, and product development space as well through our partner network. And we're very collaborative. We work across the market, not just with Scottish Water. We have access to all the other water bodies in the UK, so that we're building solutions that address the water management challenge in its entirety, as well as a focus on Scottish Water's challenges. And we have a wide network of specialist support, providing everything from finance, IP support to product development, marketing, etc., and everything else in between. And we also have access to a wide network of investors. So when the business is ready to look to start raising some funding, we can get them in front of the right people quickly. So a really exciting, unique program that is already delivering. So one of the things that I do for Scottish Water is a horizon scan process. So looking at key challenges that they have and looking globally, leveraging my network across ecosystems and investors to see what technology businesses are out there already, and then putting them through an assessment process that allows us then to identify those technologies that we think have the solutions that we need, and then working with those businesses to then get them into a place when that can be trialed and the value proposition proven, and then hopefully get them scaled up into the industry. So just some examples of some of the projects that we have deployed already that have come through this horizon scanning process. Grand Perspective was one of the companies that we identified through an early process emissions scan. This is a German-based company. They've never deployed their technology in the UK or in the water sector, but have deployed it across refining and others. And this is now in operation at a wastewater treatment works in Glasgow, already producing some really interesting insight into emission profiles at wastewater treatment works. We've also been working very closely with a micro-turbine company called Fish Friendly Turbines. They were very early stage, looking to get some funding to develop a prototype that would allow us then to deploy that on site. And we're pleased to say we supported them to get Ofwat funding recently, and we're now in discussions with them to deploy one of their turbines at a wastewater treatment works in Scotland. And then a number of others that we can see here. Solar Ethos is a spin-out from Manchester University, so not yet formed as a startup, but really exciting film that can be applied, retrofitted to solar panels that can increase efficiency by up to 30%. So really exciting there. And a couple of others in there around phosphorus removal that can be used for resource recovery. So already very active, lots going on, but we specialize, as I say, in working across that continuum from early stage research, looking at commercial opportunities and working with those early stage businesses to help them be successful. So if that's of interest to you, then please reach out to me. I'll provide my contact details into the chat, and I'm also available for questions after this presentation. So thanks. Liam, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, David, for that. It's great to see the kind of breadth of work that yourself and the HNC are undertaking. So you want to share? Okay, I'm going to assume everyone can see that okay.
That's fine.
Thanks, Tasha. So yeah, so I'll be speaking a bit about some of the work the Energy Technology Partnership is doing, and then a bit more detail about the Hydronation Energy Innovation Programme. And really at its core, it's a programme designed to try and bring together industry and academia around the kind of some of the shared challenges that David and Cormac have alluded to, essentially. So yeah, at its core, the ETP is an alliance of 14 Scottish higher education institutes. I say, even though we're a small country, Scotland, we tend to punch well above our weight in the university sector. And I think this kind of collaborative, joined up approach that the Scotland has really contributes to the strength of the sector. Actually, so at its core, I said we're this research alliance, but we're made up of these 12.5 themes. So it pretty much covers the whole of the net zero agenda, whether it's hydrogen, batteries and solar, energy, people, policy and society, etc. Within all of these, we have theme champions and a dedicated kind of theme leadership group that trickles down to they know the strength of their own sectors, pretty much. I've mentioned the half theme, so this energy and water theme, which I'm connected with, we call it half theme. It's because it's led by the Hydronation Chair. We just heard from David, so there's no point or efforts to try and duplicate some of the great work the Hydronation Chair were already doing. So the Hydronation Chair leads that energy and water theme, and they're doing a great job, as you just heard from David there. So that's the kind of one of the key pillars of the ETP, is that kind of collaborative academic research. And the other side of things, we try to bring together industry and academia around this broad net zero agenda, these huge challenges. And one of the key things we try and do is support these funded have supportive programs to try and develop these collaborative projects. So I won't touch too much today on the doctorate program. At the moment, there's no open calls coming, but we're hoping to have good news around that in April. But it's really to say they're generally 3.5-year funded programs, and they work on a third model. So a third from the ETP, third from industry, and a third from academia. The positive thing about this, everybody gets 2/3 of a PhD studentship paid for, and they're great for kind of the earlier TRL, kind of deep dive, long-running projects, essentially. And the program's been running for over 10 years or so, so there's a good track record of supporting these studentships. Let's say, if you subscribe to our newsletter or socials, you should get news as that comes through. The kind of main focus of this talk is around our knowledge exchange, kind of smaller innovation program. So similarly, we've ran these programs for around 10 years or so, and we've got good track record of supporting companies and projects in this net zero space. The current focus is on energy and water, so the Hydronation Energy Innovation Program and green hydrogen, essentially. But all of these programs work more or less in the same way. So we're trying to support the government in meeting its targets for the energy sector, increase the innovation capacity of SMEs in the low carbon energy sector. One of the main levers we can pull on that is improving industry access to academic capabilities, essentially. And as maybe David touched on earlier, it's not for blue skies thinking, it's not just for research sake. We want all of these projects to have good economic impact for Scotland, essentially. So we want to see job creation, real reductions in CO2, etc. And things like that. But yeah, they all have to have an economic impact for Scotland, essentially. So yeah, so the two programs we run at the moment are the Hydrogen Innovation Programme, which is led by my colleague Natasha Madeira, who's on the call today, and the Hydronation Energy Innovation Programme. And I've included them both because there is some shared challenges across both of these projects. If you think of the water supply for electrolyzers, has to be of certain purity, etc. And if you can use alternative sources for that water supply, that could be a real bonus to the kind of overall green hydrogen agenda and kind of, I guess, water agenda broadly. So both these programs, the hydrogen and the water program, work more or less the same way. So I guess it must be a low carbon project. They have to be a Scottish SME or an organisation with a strong Scottish presence. Essentially, it's a 10k grant that funds access to university expertise and facilities. So the grant is awarded, I guess, to the university, and it buys things like academic time, travel, consumables, etc. But really, it's a good way of unlocking that access to the university and kind of consolidating the collaboration around a shared project. Essentially, so it's a 70% intervention rate. So, but that 30% company contribution can all be in kind. So it doesn't have to have physical match cash at this point. And the positive, typically it's a very quick decision on the application unless somebody's on annual leave or off sick, for instance, but usually it's a quick process, and the business development manager, so either myself or Natasha, will help with the application process. We won't just send you the application, so you give it to us in a month. We'll help you at kind of every stage of the application. Okay. And what we want to see from these applications is using it as a springboard to secure much larger funding pots. So we don't just want to give you the 10k and the project, for the most part, doesn't go anywhere. The companies we've worked for in the past have a good track record of securing much larger funding pots, whether that's the doctorate program, which you mentioned earlier, KTP, smart grants, any UKRI, or potentially going beyond that into Horizon Europe, things like that. So yeah, the companies, as mentioned, worked in the past, good track records of securing much larger wins after that. So yes, I'll speak a wee bit the kind of project scope, some of the things we're starting to look for in the Hydronation Energy Innovation Programme. So as David mentioned earlier, David and Cormac, some of the big challenges that Scottish Water is facing is cutting into that ambitious decarbonisation by 2040. You can see some of the breakdown here You know, it's largely drinking water and wastewater treatments, sludge treatment, and some of that kind of built environment David mentioned on. As mentioned, it's an ambitious target, but from the SME and the university side, that does bring opportunity to kind of bring to the table innovative solutions that they're, as you heard from David and Cormac, looking to implement and looking to support. Essentially, so it's an ambitious goal from Scottish Water, but you can see that does bring opportunity for the innovators on the call. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the ETP core is 14 higher education institutes, but to mention the Hydronation Energy Innovation Programme has adopted a real Scotland-wide approach. So we're supported very closely by the Hydronation Chair Programme, as Dave mentioned, as well as Crew and Hydronation International Centre. And there's a recognition, I guess, that it's not just our 4 core universities. There's really good water expertise beyond that, and that includes, you know, Abertay, the Hutton, etc., SRUC, UCH, Mordom, etc. So there's a real Scotland-wide approach to the hydronation agenda broadly. So yeah, so it's not an exhaustive list of the project scope, some of the things we're looking to fund, but just a few examples here. You know, as you mentioned, we're looking to cut Scottish Water's emissions by 2040 broadly. So yeah, that could be contaminated water and wastewater treatment, some of the circular economy things David mentioned earlier, sludge treatment. You know, it could be energy generation, etc., run the river type, anaerobic digesters, you know, smart management, sensors, data analytics, etc. So it's a broad list, and it's not exhaustive. We're open to solutions that industry or universities have, you know, to that big challenge that Scottish Water is facing. And I'll just include a slide here in the hydrogen innovation programme just for reference. But yeah, broadly, trying to support the green hydrogen supply chain, essentially, and that, you know, up from the beginning of supplying the water, all the way from fuel cells, electrolyzers, transportation, storage, etc. But there's a big water angle to this hydrogen, this new hydrogen economy that's trying to be developed, essentially. So if that is of interest as well, please get in touch with myself or Natasha, and we'll be happy to support, essentially. So yeah, so just to summarize, I guess, so for these 2 funding calls, I guess, so it must be a low carbon project aligning to the national priorities. It's got to be a Scottish SME or an organisation with a strong Scottish presence. It's water or hydrogen focused, and it's a 10k grant that is awarded to the university, and it's mentioned by things like academic time, travel, consumables, and it's a 70% intervention rate, but that 30% can all be in kind. And I said we've been working on these types of knowledge exchange type projects, ETP as a whole, for across the last 10 to 15 years. So we've got a huge array of company supports, you know, large amount of industry from, if you're a public sector university, industry match funding into the kind of university research base. It's in over 250 projects supported over that time. Okay, yeah, so if that's of interest, I can share these slides after the talk, but do please get in contact with myself or Natasha or David and Cormac if any of these things are of interest. Okay, if there's any questions, I'll maybe invite David and Cormac back onto the screen. I'll stop sharing. But yeah, thanks very much, and thanks David and Cormac for both giving up your time to speak today. It was great hearing from both of you essentially about the kind of the work that you're both undertaking, and that kind of joined up nature of things, I think, is, to mention earlier, contributing to the strength of the sector. So yeah, I don't know, Natasha, has there been many questions through the chat?
Hi there. So I can see Cormac and David have been responding to some general queries to follow up. So there's some exchange going on there, but some of the questions here. So choose from these. How do innovators begin the process of trialling at the Scottish Water Horizon Development Centres? What do you see as some of the future innovation challenges to address? And what other types of follow-on funding and collaboration supports available for the next steps of the innovation pathway? You've covered a bit of that, but specifically for water and hydrogen. Sorry, water and wastewater.
Yeah, I'll address the first question, Natasha, on how you get to trial. It's a good question because it's a very practical one, and it's one that we're commonly asked. How do you actually begin the process of doing it? I suppose we do get a lot of inquiries, and essentially we do like to keep an open mind on who comes to trial at Gortleck and Bowness. We start the process by literally having a phone call just to determine what the technology is, what the innovator is looking to do, and what they're looking from us. I suppose we also like to kind of communicate our capacity as well, and what we are able to do on site, and essentially try and kind of a match up requirements with capacity. We do, I suppose, the benefits of being part of the larger Scottish water organisations. We do have access to a lot of technical experts in specific areas, so we can liaise with those experts just to determine about the feasibility of the trial, any precautions we need to take, and its suitability as well. So we can invite the innovators to our test centres to have a tour around. There's nothing better than actually getting boots on the ground and looking at, you know, the test centre in terms of what actually you need to bring about a successful trial. I guess in terms of kind of what we can bring to site, and in terms of, you know, if you wonder, is your technology suitable for us or is something we're interested in, generally we work with academia, small and medium enterprises. So there could be those that wish to apply research in a real world setting without, you know, having the kind of the low risk setting is important, but also companies which are looking to commercialize their technology. They might be at the early stages of their market and they're looking to scale up. They want kind of a good case study to work off and to validate their technology. That's important as well. Technologies generally have to be innovative that we work with. Now, I've illustrated, you know, the point of use technologies in Gortleck, Penison using the Kaitozan as a replacement for Flockland, McCann as well. They are kind of, we'll say, novel ideas. However, there's nothing to say that we have an existing process at the treatment works in Bowness, for example, something like grit removal, which mightn't be as fancy. However, if it produces, I suppose, you know, a notable improvement on the current treatment process, certainly that's something we're very happy to work with. And again, you know, we're Scottish Water is a large organization. We have a huge treatment base. We're very keen, I suppose, to bring on board some of this innovation to also work with Operation Scottish Water as well. We're working through some large goals like net zero and circular economy. So anything, I suppose, that produces you know, a notable benefit and also tries to meet those goals is something we're interested in.
Thanks, Cormac. Broadly, is there any, I know in the funding that's available just now, you're saying it's mostly aimed for SMEs and academia. Is there restrictions around that, essentially? Like, could a larger company, or if it's a subsidiary, does that come into it? Like, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose each case is different, and we definitely review applications on a case-by-case basis. I certainly wouldn't say that we wouldn't turn away a large company. It kind of depends if it's, you know, essentially you might have a research department of a large company which is looking to trial a novel technology or novel process with something which is different. So certainly we can review that. I suppose we are geared more towards those that mightn't have access to other funding, for example, like a research institute, like kind of the smaller companies, which are the startups. However, we certainly do, like I said, we definitely take each case on its own merit. And if we do see the benefits for us and the benefits for the innovator, we're happy to work to that.
Yeah, and I guess the larger company can always come and use the site anyway. It just might not have full access to your funding of it. But
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and David, can I maybe ask you? It's just more a general question. It's just how would an SME, for instance, start to engage with the Hydronation Chair program?
Yeah, so it's a very similar approach to Cormac. So it's really about having that initial conversation, them reaching out and us having a chat to understand what the problem is they're trying to solve, what their solution looks like, and how that aligns with the priorities of Scottish Water and ultimately the Hydronation Chair. So, you know, we get a lot of contacts So it's about managing that and working closely with them based on their needs. And if we can't support them, about signposting them to others. And I do that quite a bit as well in terms of, other organizations that might be able to help, or investors or accelerators or whatever they might need to kind of help move them on their journey. And to touch on a couple of the other questions that were in, so there was one around kind of some of the future innovation challenges. So we're hearing a lot more now around some of these hard to treat chemicals such as PFAS and pharmaceuticals. And while there's not any regulatory requirements in that space, it's going to come. And we're already working with Scottish Water and some early pioneering businesses that are looking at, particularly in the PFAS space, for the identification, monitoring, and ultimately the destruction of these really hard to treat chemicals. So that's a really important space. And kind of types of follow-on funding is the really difficult one, actually, if you're an early stage business and trying to navigate that public and private funding space. Is particularly difficult, especially if your product is deep tech hardware orientated. That will mean you're going to be particularly capital intensive in terms of getting that product developed and scaled up. And it can be quite difficult based on that risk profile to raise certainly private funding at those early stages. But in our network, we've got a wide variety of investors that work at really early patient capital stages to those that are maybe looking a bit later on. So it's about leveraging the network and speaking to the right people to understand, where you fit in that continuum and who you can potentially speak to. But we do have we've got a very active angel syndicate network in Scotland, a lot of high net worths that are looking to support these types of businesses at early stages. It's just finding the right fit for those businesses depending on where they are.
A couple more questions from Keith. Is there a typical TRL that is needed to be achieved to be of interest to the Hydronation investor network? And he also mentioned earlier about carbon quantification as well.
Yes, it's an interesting one. So, I mean, as I said, we work across the full spectrum. If you're looking at TRL levels, from everything that is fundamental R&D or very early stage work, when we've shown that where we're creating new R&D concepts that we're supporting and funding, and then looking to see how we can accelerate them through that TRL level. In terms of the investor network, herein lies the rub, unfortunately, that a lot of investors are looking for things that are much later stage TRL that have some form of demonstrate market pool, product market fit. And that's quite difficult to demonstrate. And that's one of the reasons why the development centres are so important, because they're dedicated facilities that allow you to get that operator insight and expertise and get that technology proven so that you can show and demonstrate that back to the investor network that it works and you've deployed it in one of these facilities. But it does vary, but on the whole, most of these investors are really only interested if it's been proven. But there are a few that will come in much earlier stage if it's something that is novel and solving a product or a problem that has a large market opportunity. So these people are there to make money, so they're obviously wanting to make sure these technologies can scale. So they want to de-risk that as much as possible. But on the whole, most of these investors will be later stage. But we, as the Hydronation Chair, will work with businesses at all levels and all stages and help identify where those funding pots might be. So if Keith, if there's anything in particular that you're looking at, then please feel free to reach out and we can have a chat.
Okay. No, thanks very much, David. Thank Cormac there. I don't see any other further questions in the chat. Wrong attached, though.
Yeah, I have another sort of follow-up from what David was just saying. You're talking about sort of working with people to bring them up to investor level, but do you also provide support to help them engage with investors and get them investor ready and provide the portfolio and so on? How do you work with people to support them?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of that, there's a variety of skills needed in that space. So one is obviously preparing a comprehensive business plan. So what is the business plan? It's not just about the technology and the product. There is to be a business that is delivering that. So being very clear commercially on that with them and helping them build that story. And then it's everything from building pitch decks, to doing pitch training with them, and how do they tell that story, how do you be compelling and memorable. So that's a really important piece. You need to be able to sell your business to these investors, and understand what those difficult questions might be and have answers ready for those. About being ambitious, have a really powerful mission, and one that is compelling, that people will remember. So we support them with all of that workload, as well as identifying what are the investors that would likely be interested in that particular product type in this particular market. Because having attended a number of international water conferences, the challenges that the Scottish Water are facing are the same challenges that a lot of these water companies are facing all over the world. That's not unique. So something that is deployable, that is addressing a Scottish Water challenges, is absolutely scalable globally. So there's a huge opportunity there for these technologies, but it's about, positioning them in a way that they can get that money raised and get them accelerated along that journey. And it's really difficult. It's really tough to raise money at the moment. But we can support them with that journey depending on where they are.
It's a lot of support. That sounds fantastic. Another follow-up for Cormac, if you have time, Liam?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you talked about the previous sort of project examples there, sort of highlighting the range that you do. How difficult is it for companies to be put into mainstream treatment processes? How difficult is it to procure the innovative solutions? And do you, as an organisation, Scottish Water, help that process and putting them into trials within your own operations?
So I guess we will facilitate innovation, and we will certainly offer as much support as possible to ensure a successful trial. I guess it's important to add that not everyone who comes to trial at our development centres will ultimately look to work with Scottish Water. Some of them are private companies and will look to work with, for example, industrial customers as well. In terms of Scottish Water, we do engage teams, like I said, from operations, from process science, from strategy, research and innovation, to actually come to site to view these technologies in operation. Obviously, all these departments have their own specific objectives, challenges which they're trying to achieve. So from their point of view, I suppose there is that crossover between what we can bring to the table in terms of facilitating this innovation and what they're looking to integrate some of that innovation into their day-to-day operations. But certainly, I mean, we're very happy to support that process as much as possible. We do provide support from the very outset to the end, and we're very happy to, I suppose, to speak at length about successful trials which have come to our development centres, because ultimately, we are a very small team within Scottish Water. So I think we do a lot of good work to kind of highlight new ideas which might otherwise not have had the facilities to actually be able to bring that to fruition.
Okay, thanks, Cormac. And then in the first instance, if somebody wanted to come for a site visit, for instance, would they just reach out to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, we're very happy. We're very happy to broadcast as much as possible our development centres. So if someone does want to come, please feel free to contact me. I've left my email in the chat. If you'd like to come as a group, we're very happy to host and to give you a tour, not only of our test centre, but also the treatment works on site as well, just to give you an idea of what we do.
Okay. No, thanks, Cormac. So I think it's 11:01, so we'll probably close things off here. But yeah, thanks very much, David and Cormac and Natasha, and also Jenny and Alex in the background for helping out with the event. So yeah, thanks for everyone for attending as well. So we'll probably wrap things up there. But yeah,
thanks, Liam.
Thanks very much, all.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.